Okay, I sat down to write this week's video. I was originally going to write a video on compound interest because it's definitely the most important thing to understand when learning how to invest. But then I noticed a really odd trend. There's a ton of videos made talking about this magical phenomenon that happens once your net worth hits $100,000.
Don't worry about earning millions. Instead, focus on the first 100,000 because after that, your net worth will go crazy.
Once you hit 100K, your net worth starts to skyrocket.
Get that first 100K out of the way as soon as you can.
And then they always use the snowball analogy, which shows that after $100,000, your path to $1 million is substantially quicker. And they all attribute the original quote to Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man.
Charlie Munger said, who's Warren Buffett's business partner, said the first 100 grand's a bitch. He even says that. It's a quote. You can look it up.
But here's the thing. That quote doesn't exist. If there's anything I'm an expert in, it's Buffett-style investing. I've read every single annual report since 1965. I've watched every shareholder meeting either in person or virtually since 1994. The quote that all of these videos are based on doesn't exist. In the late 90s, Charlie did reference $100,000 as an investing milestone, but the original point he was trying to make seems to have been lost in translation. It seems a giant game of telephone has taken place. In this video, we'll take a look at the overall idea supplied by these YouTubers based on the not real quote, because there are still some good nuggets of information in there. But then we'll turn back the clock 25 years to find the original source of the quote, which, yes, I was able to find after a ton of digging. And then finally, we'll show you how the real quote can help you develop into even more of an intelligent investor today. Speaking of intelligent investing, if you'd like more of this content in your feed that promotes rational, long-term Buffett-style investing, consider giving us a like and subscribe. Okay, so here's the quote that normally gets mentioned.
At an old Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, Charlie Munger was asked what his best advice for investing and building wealth is. His response was, the first $100,000 is a bit, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do, find a way to get your hands on 100,000, and after that, you can ease off the gas a little bit.
Obviously, I wouldn't make a whole video just calling out a bunch of YouTubers for misquoting Charlie Munger. So what's my problem here? I mean, the first main point, living below your means, is exactly one of the paths I believe to becoming wealthy. So I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have boils down to the math. These videos make it seem like the starting gun is at $100,000. That's not how math works. The magic of compound interest will occur with any principal amount. Sure, $100,000 compounds in greater numbers than $10 would, just as $100 million will compound quicker than $100,000. But it doesn't compound any quicker. In a world where Gen Z and millennials are becoming more and more disheartened, getting the message that you can't really start enjoying the effects of investing until $100,000 doesn't really make sense. And I think that that disheartens an already disheartened generation. The most important thing is just getting started. I don't remember hitting $100,000 in my net worth. I really don't. I know that it happened $1,000 at a time. And I also know that I was enjoying the effects of compound interest well before that. I've hit over $1 million since then, and guess what? I'm still enjoying the effects of compound interest. Okay, I want to take you on a journey on how I was able to find the real quote. Because if I'm wrong, and if that quote is actually real, please let me know. I'm offering a $100 bounty to anyone who can find it, as well as a year-long free membership to Flank. So I found a couple sources online that said that the quote came from a 1990s shareholder meeting. Here's the original question.
Earlier you had acknowledged that it is a more difficult investment and business environment today than it was when you first started out. My question is, if you were starting out again today in your early 30s, what would you do differently or the same in today's environment to replicate your success? In short, Mr. Buffett, how can I make $30 billion?
All right, that's a good question. Obviously, we all want to know how Buffett would get started today. But for the sharp-eared listeners, you may have heard that his net worth was $30 billion. Well, today, it's $143 billion since he's given so much to charity. But $30 billion to $300 billion in 30 years shows the magic of compound interest. Buffett's enjoying it, just as I am, just as you should be. Anyway, here's Buffett's response.
Start young. Charlie's always said that the big thing about it is we started building this little snowball on top of a very long hill. So we started at a very early age in rolling the snowball down. And of course, the nature of compound interest is it behaves like a snowball of sticky snow. And the trick is to have a very long hill, which means either starting very young or living to be very old. I would do it exactly the same way if I were doing it in the investment world. I mean, if I were getting out of school today and I had $10,000 to invest, I'd start with the A's. I would start going right through companies, and I probably would focus on smaller companies because I would be working with smaller sums, and there's more chance that something is overlooked in that arena. And as Charlie has said earlier, it won't be like doing that in 1951 when you could leaf through and find all kinds of things that just leapt off the page at you. But that's the only way to do it. I mean, you have to buy businesses.
That's a really great response from Warren. And that snowball analogy is just another analogy for compound interest. And then finally, here's Charlie's quote.
The hard part of the process for most people is the first $100,000. If you have a standing start at zero, getting together $100,000 is a long struggle for most people. And I would argue that the people who get there relatively quickly are helped if they're passionate about being rational, very eager and opportunistic, and steadily underspend their income grossly.
Okay, so yep, he said that going from 0 to 100K is hard. That's kind of what that original quote was. But then he makes 3 points on those who are able to do it quickly. Those 3 things are being passionate about being rational, very eager and opportunistic, and then steadily underspend their gross income. This is the real key. That original quote made it seem like you just got to go out and grind. It's giving millennials buying too much avocado toast and coffee. But the real quote gives the true alchemy of wealth. Let's break down each point. People who are passionate about being rationals means that they won't interrupt the compound cycle. Buffett has said time and time again that you need more EQ than IQ in investing. And to me, this also means that you'll understand the difference between speculating and investing. Speculating is just gambling. Investing is when you have a thesis, when you've done your homework. Someone who does that is passionate about being rational. Or if someone doesn't want to actually stock pick, that's as simple as dollar cost averaging in the S&P 500. Instead of looking for the needle in the haystack, you just buy the whole haystack. His second point, being very eager and opportunistic. This means 2 things to me. First, I think it means maximizing your earnings potential. Unless you're lucky enough to inherit money, this will be your easiest way to grow that principal that compounds. And then if you know anything about Munger style investing, he's all about investing heavily when you find that opportunity, because he believes real opportunities only happen once every couple decades. And then his third point that he makes is that it's someone who steadily underspends their gross income. It doesn't matter what your annual income is. If you spend more than that, you're not going to have any money around to invest it. It doesn't matter if you make $3 million a year. If you're spending $6 million a year, you're broke. And then his third point he makes is that it's people who steadily underspend their gross income. This one's pretty simple. If you spend more than you make, you'll never have any excess capital to go ahead and invest it. And then if you don't have anything invested, you won't be able to reap the benefits of compound interest. Okay, I hope it's clear by now that the original videos that the YouTubers were making weren't saying anything toxic or vile, but they were basing this discussion off of a misquote by Charlie Munger. And I think that the real quote provided way more insight into the actual alchemy of wealth. But the fact of the matter is that you can start enjoying the magic of compound interest today. Final note before we sign off, just in case that quote is actually real, I'd like to offer anyone who's able to find it a $100 reward. I'll Venmo you $100 if you can find it. And just to throw in a little extra, I'll give you a year-long free membership to Flank. Anyway, the biggest things you're going to want to do to start enjoying the benefits of compound interest today are first, eliminate any bad debt. The magic of compound interest works in both directions. Debt compounds just as well as equity compounds. Second, I think it makes sense to start dollar cost averaging into a low cost ETF immediately. Instead of trying to look for that needle in the haystack, you just buy the whole haystack. This will allow you to start enjoying compound interest today. And then thirdly, to follow Charlie's advice, if it's something that interests you, which if you've made it to this portion of the video, you probably are interested in investing, it makes sense to learn everything you can about the art and science of investing, which is where Flank comes in. Today, intelligent investing is boring, overwhelming, intimidating, and lonely, and we're on a mission to fix that. We've created a data platform that will walk you through exactly how to study a company just like Buffett does. But we got some feedback that it was still a little bit too overwhelming. So we're releasing a course that stacks right on top of that data platform that will really walk you through the fundamentals of this type of investing. We're releasing early access to the course and the data platform. They're all included in the same thing to our Patreon members. There'll be a link to join our Patreon in the description below, as well as a free link to join our Discord, where we have a pretty active community of intelligent investors.